Hi, I'm Dr. Tis Karazian, and I want to talk to you about different dietary protocols and regimens, and specifically the autoimmune paleo diet when a person has autoimmunity. Now, technically, when people have autoimmunity, one of the first things they notice is that inflammatory proteins, especially things like gluten, especially things like dairy, or even neoantigens or new proteins that have been modified, like GMO soy, GMO corn, and even things like albumin. These proteins are all common inflammatory proteins for people who have autoimmunity that really they notice when they avoid these things that they get much better. And then we also know that certain grains can cross-react with gluten. So over time, one of the things that's been developed is what's now being called the autoimmune paleo diet. And we would, before the autoimmune paleo diet became popular and it was named the autoimmune paleo diet, we would see patients come in and that suffered from autoimmunity, and we would see that they would basically be eating meats and vegetables, and that they couldn't tolerate things like nightshades, and they couldn't handle seeds, and they couldn't handle grains and so forth, and that was the only thing that they can function on. And over time, we really realized that these food combinations can be an issue for the food proteins are a significant issue for people who have autoimmune diseases, and lots of research has been done on this, including research that I published myself on this topic. But what we know is that autoimmune paleo diet is probably the most important diet for people who have autoimmune disease, that they need to be gluten-free, dairy-free, and go off grains. And many patients also have reactions to what are called lectins or nightshades. These are very inflammatory proteins and nuts and seeds of different vegetables and so forth. And when they get exposed to them, this can be very inflammatory. But there's some problems with the autoimmune paleo diet. First of all, when patients go on the autoimmune paleo diet, many of them also have complete food restrictions. So they narrow down their list. This impacts their diversity, and they get much worse. Because one of the things that we know about autoimmune disease is you have to have something called oral tolerance. And oral tolerance is your immune system's ability, and specifically your gut immune system's ability, to not react against dietary food proteins. And this is done with the orchestration and balance of dendritic cells in the gut that sample food, and regulatory T cells that then dictate the immune response, and the integrity of intestinal tight junctions. And these all work in sync together. But one of the things that has to happen is that bacteria in the gut produce things called postbiotics and different polysaccharides, and they impact all these immune cells. And that really helps us determine whether we react or not react to food proteins. And having a diverse microbiome is essential for that. So one of the big mistakes we see with people that do autoimmune paleo diet is they just kind of go, well, I can't eat anything, so I'm just going to eat these foods. And when they eat these foods only, and they limit their diet, they lose their diversity, and they actually end up having more reactions to just eating. And this is a significant problem. The other key thing is that many foods in the autoimmune paleo diet can actually cause molecular mimicry or cross-react to neurological target proteins. So we've studied some publications where spinach has aquaporin, and people that have MS or neuromyelitis optica can react to spinach because the protein structure of spinach, even though it's permitted in the autoimmune paleo diet, can cause significant molecular mimicry with the autoimmune target protein. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to go over all these topics and really discuss the concept of food proteins and how they trigger autoimmunity in the Karazian Institute Autoimmune course. And we'll talk about all the different ways to evaluate patients, and then what kind of dietary regimen is to implement, and also how important it is to not just limit yourself to or your patients to the autoimmune paleo diet, but really look at factors like cross-reactivity and immune tolerance. Hope to see you at the Karazian Institute Autoimmune course, and thank you for your attention.